Good afternoon. Rogue left, so Griffin is introducing Rogue's reads right now. So I really think he just wants to take a nap. Good night, Griffin. All right, but I'm here. Hi guys, it's Renee from Salem Public Library in Salem, Ohio. Back for the Friday edition of Rogue's Reads. The sun came out, so Rogue left us to go sit in a patch of sunshine because that's what cats do. I do think, yeah, Daisy Ray's right up behind me on the couch though. So, they want to hear what's happening to Coke and Pepsi. Let's see. We are reading The Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable by Dan Gutman. So big thanks to Dan Gutman and HarperCollins Publishing for letting us use the book. You know, I really thought I had this timed out so that we would finish the book today. We're not going to. We've got at least a couple more days on it, but it's a really fun ending. So hang on with me for a few more days, and if you guys like this one, please let me know. We'll read book 2 for our next selection. If not, we'll throw the series out and we'll read something else. I need some feedback though. Let me know what you guys want to do. If you want to read this one or if you want to try something new. So we finished off with, they went to the giant ball of twine and they found out there is another ball of twine that also claims to be the largest in the world. So they headed to Minnesota to find the second largest ball of twine because nothing was happening at the first one in Kansas. So now they're going to Minnesota to see if maybe the terrorist attack is happening there, and hopefully they can stop it. On the way there, they stopped at the Spam Museum. They met one of the bowler dudes, not the one from the Singing Dunes, but his brother, and they all ended up in the Spam vat. So, ew, gross. Pep found some determination and kind of beat him up, which, go Pep, he was trying to kill her, so that's a good thing. So they left the guy in the Spam thing and they headed to a campground. So we are, and at the very end with the campground, there was another cipher. This one is all numbers. So hopefully Pepsi can figure it out because I certainly can't. All right, so here we go. We are on chapter 19, Process of Elimination. As soon as Coke got back to the RV, he wrote out the new cipher for his sister. And I'm not going to read it because it is really just a long string of numbers. Numbers, she asked. Now we got to figure out numbers? You're the queen of ciphers, he replied. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Pep looked at the cipher for a few minutes. It was incomprehensible. The only pattern she could recognize was that the top row had higher numbers than the bottom row. Whoever was tormenting them with these ciphers was making each one harder than the last. Finally, she decided the best thing to do would be to sleep on it. Maybe the answer would come to her in the middle of the night like the last time. But it didn't. Breakfast was cold cereal eaten out of cardboard bowls with plastic spoons. Nothing fancy. Everybody was anxious to get up to Darwin, Minnesota and see the largest, or maybe second largest, ball of twine in the world. As they were getting ready to leave the campground, Mrs. McDonald suggested they all go out to the movies that evening. She had checked the internet and seen that there was a theater in Litchfield, just a few miles from Darwin. Dr. McDonald pulled the RV onto Interstate 35, heading north toward Minneapolis. They had only driven a few miles down the road when he snapped his fingers. "We forgot to do a dump back at the campground," he exclaimed. "The holding tank is filled to the brim." Ew. I would not want to drive around with a tank full of poo. Gross. "I'll do it today, Dad," Coke said. "I promise." "You'd better." To get to Darwin, you drive up I-35, and before you get to Minneapolis, you jump on I-494 briefly, and then west on the smaller Route 12. From there, it's about an hour, a straight shot into Darwin. And the town looked a little like Cocker City, Kansas, where the other giant ball of twine was located. Small town America. Driving down the main street, they started to see signs. The Twine Ball Inn, Twine Ball Antique Shop, souvenir twine balls sold here. Dr. McDonald made a left onto First Street. He drove by a park and a water tower, and there he saw a large gazebo covered by plexiglass panels. "There she blows!" Coke yelled. Dr. McDonald went a block further, turned the corner, and parked the RV on a side street. "Be careful now," Coke whispered to his sister as he grabbed their backpacks. "Something's going to happen here for sure. Something bad. We've got to stop it. Keep your eyes open." "But we don't know when," Pep whispered back. "It might not even be today." They walked around the corner and joined the group of people mingling around the ball of twine. It was, of course, enormous, just about filling the gazebo. "Behold, Mrs. McDonald, the largest ball of twine in the world." But once you've seen one gigantic ball of twine, you've pretty much seen them all. It was still interesting to look at, but some of the novelty had worn off. "It looks pretty much like the other one," noted Dr. McDonald. "I can't believe we drove so far out of our way to see this." "I think this one is a little bigger than the one in Kansas," Pep said. "It was definitely worth the trip." "Think of it this way, Dad. Now we've seen the two biggest balls of twine in the world. How many people can say that?" Dr. McDonald shook his head sadly and went to sit on a bench nearby to read a book. He had seen enough giant balls of twine to last a lifetime. Mrs. McDonald seemed to be just as fascinated with the Darwin twine ball as she had been with the one in Cawker City. She insisted on reading every pamphlet and the wall plaque about the ball's history. Apparently, a few years before Frank Stober started rolling his ball of twine in Kansas, a farmer named Francis A. Johnson began rolling one in Darwin. Johnson even used a crane so he could lift the ball to continue rolling it properly. That's just not like flat where it's sitting on the ground. It's actually pretty clever. For years, the two men had sort of a long-distance dueling twine ball race going as their respective balls got bigger and bigger. After Frank Stober died in 1974, you would have thought Francis Johnson would have claimed victory and retired. But he kept right on going, rolling twine 4 hours a day, every day until he died in 1989. By that time, his twine ball was 17,900 pounds and 13 feet in diameter. That is a lot of twine. Mrs. McDonald went across the street to interview some locals about the twine ball. Coke and Pep walked among the crowd looking for suspicious characters. Most of the people standing around looked fairly normal, but one couple caught their eyes. Excuse me. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry. With clunky cameras around their necks and Minnesota guidebooks in their hands. They were obviously tourists. The man had a bushy mustache and the woman had on round, oversized sunglasses. They spoke in loud German accents. My German accent is terrible. I probably shouldn't even try. "We have a ball of twine in Dusseldorf, much bigger than this one," the man said to nobody in particular. "Oh, yes," said the woman. "Our twine ball makes these ones look like a little marble." Yeah, I'm not even going to try the accent, sorry. A few of the locals shot glares at the German couple, but nobody argued with them. Minnesotans are known for their politeness. Coke and Pep sidled over to the couple so they could hear better. "Our German twine ball is so large that it exerts its own gravitational force," boasted the man. "It influences the ocean tides, you know." "Yes," the woman agreed. "There is some concerns that the gravitational pull of our twine ball might cause the moon to crash into Earth." I doubt it. The German couple looked directly at Coke and Pep as they spoke, and then the woman took off her sunglasses and the man pulled off his mustache. "Bones!" Coke said. "Maya!" Pep said a little too loud. "Shh," Maya said, putting the sunglasses back on. "We're looking to prevent an attack. We've been here for 2 days. We're exhausted." "How did you get here?" Last time we saw you, it was the Bonneville Salt Flats. You guys were almost dead." "It's a long story," Maya said, "but the important thing is that we're here and the twine ball is safe. So far, anyway." "Have you seen anything suspicious?" Coke asked. "No," said Bones, "but we intercepted another text message that said somebody's going to try something here any day, so we can't let down our guard for a second." "Why don't you take a break?" Pep said. "We'll relieve you for a while." Bones and Maya looked at each other as if they weren't sure the twins could be trusted to handle whatever might happen in their absence. But they were tired, and the idea of taking a break sounded good. "That would be wonderful," Bones said. "We'll meet you back here in an hour." "Auf Wiedersehen," Maya said. I believe that means thank you. "Do you think those two are boyfriend and girlfriend?" Pep asked her brother after Bones and Maya walked away. "How should I know?" Coke asked, irritated. He always found gossip to be annoying. They walked around the twine ball for a long time, pretending to look interested. In fact, they were looking at the people who really were interested. I apologize. I believe the garbage man is here and Daisy has to bark at them. Shh. 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 In fact, they were looking at the people who really were interested. And then, suddenly, Coke stopped and tugged at his sister's sleeve. "Hey, you see that lady over there?" he whispered. "Does she look familiar to you?" Pep looked at the tall woman on the other side of the twine ball. The scarf over her head made it hard to tell what the face looked like. The woman was taking pictures of the ball like all the other tourists, but then, for a moment, she reached out and pressed her hand against the ball. She was wearing white gloves. "It's Mrs. Higgins!" Pep exclaimed. "Our health teacher!" "Shh!" Coke clapped a hand over his sister's mouth. "Be cool!" "What's Mrs. Higgins doing here?" Pep whispered. "Do you think it's a coincidence?" "Gee, I don't know," Coke said. "Do you think it was a coincidence that the school burned down right after she locked us in the detention room? Maybe she's going to try to kill us again." Pep said. "I don't think so," Coke replied. "She doesn't even seem to realize we're here." At that moment, Mrs. Higgins took one last look at the ball of twine and walked out of the gazebo. "Daisy, shh, hush. It's the trash guys. They're taking our trash away. It's all good." Dogs. I'm going to start back at the top of this page. At this moment, Mrs. Higgins took one last look at the ball of twine and walked out of the gazebo. "Where's she going?" Pep asked. "I don't know," Coke replied, grabbing his sister's hand, "but wherever it is, that's where we're going. Come on." Pep took out her cell phone and sent a quick text to her mother. "We went to look for souvenirs." Mrs. Higgins crossed the street and turned the corner and walked briskly down the same street where the RV was parked. Coke and Pep followed, ducking behind cars and bushes so they would not be seen. Mrs. Higgins walked right past the RV and got into a red convertible parked 3 spaces in front of it, and the car started. "She's leaving!" Pep whispered. "Get in the RV!" Coke barked. "Why?" "Just get in." The RV door, as usual, was unlocked and the key in the ignition. Oh, Dr. McDonald. The twins climbed into the front seats. Coke turned the key. What are you doing?" his sister shouted. "You're not old enough to drive." "Says who?" Coke asked. "Look, she's getting away. Fasten your seatbelt." He put the RV into gear and pulled out of the parking space. "Are you crazy?" Pep yelled. "You don't know how to drive this thing. What if you damage the RV?" "It's okay," Coke told her as he put his foot on the gas. "It's a rental." The red convertible made a left at the corner and drove slowly down the street. Coke followed, keeping a respectable distance between them. "Mom and Dad are going to freak," Pep complained. "Relax, they'll never find out," Coke said. "Look, we know that Mrs. Higgins is an assassin. We got to find out where she's going." The red convertible drove a few blocks and then turned down a short, steep hill into the parking lot of a pizza place at the end of a strip mall. There were only 2 other cars in the lot, and Coke didn't want to attract attention by joining them. Instead, he stopped at the top of the hill and drove near a guardrail that overlooked the parking lot. "Where'd you go?" Pep asked as she scanned the lot. They got out of the RV to look around. When they glanced down, they could see the red convertible parked directly below. "Shh," Coke said. The twins watched as Mrs. Higgins took off her seatbelt and removed her gloves. She opened the driver's side door and got out of the convertible. Then she opened the trunk and took something out of it. It looked like a plastic container of some sort with straps on each side. She went around to the front of the convertible and began to tie the straps to the bumper. "What's she doing?" Pep whispered. "I don't know," Coke replied. "Why would somebody strap something to the bumper of their car?" Mrs. Higgins went back to the trunk again and took out a smaller container with a lid on it. She removed the lid and went to the front of the car. Her body was blocking their line of sight, so the twins couldn't tell if it was a liquid, a powder, or what it was she was pouring into the large container that was strapped to the front bumper. But she was leaning over the container, definitely pouring something into it. "I think it's some kind of bomb," Pep whispered. "She's going to drive it into the ball of twine and blow it up," Coke whispered. "Why would she do a crazy thing like that?" "Maybe she's a suicide bomber?" "But why would a suicide bomber bother blowing up a ball of twine?" "Don't you see," Coke told his sister, "the largest ball of twine is a symbol of America, just like the Liberty Bell or the White House. No other country in the world would produce a dreamer who spends 30 years of his life rolling a giant ball of twine. It's symbolic of the American spirit, hard work, determination, creativity, freedom, and all that stuff." "If she was going to destroy a symbol of America," Pep asked, "why wouldn't she drive a car into the Liberty Bell or the White House?" "Because she can't," Coke told his sister. "They've got armed guards there 24/7. If she made one false move toward the Liberty Bell, the security people would take her down in a second." "Maybe you're right," Pep whispered. "There's no security around here. It probably never even occurred to the police that somebody would try to harm the ball of twine. It's the perfect target." Mrs. Higgins put the cap on the container that was strapped to the front bumper of her convertible. She got back into the car and lit a cigarette. It looked as if her hands were shaking. "She's preparing mentally," Coke whispered. "She's working up the nerve. She's going to ram the car into the ball of twine and blow it to kingdom come. She'll be dead, but she will have struck a blow against America. And the attack will be on the evening news all over the world tomorrow. We need to call the cops, Pep said, taking out her cell phone. No time for that, Cook told her. We gotta do something, and fast. What are we gonna do? Pep asked, looking in the backpack. Throw a frisbee at her? Attack her with a yo-yo? Mrs. Higgins flicked an ash from her cigarette out of the convertible. Cook thought it over, and then he brightened. I got it, he finally said. Got what? Shh, follow me. Cook got out and tiptoed over to the side of the RV. He opened a panel on the side, took out a pair of yellow rubber gloves, and put them on. What are you doing? Pep whispered. It's time to do a dump. Cook replied as he uncurled the thick hose and attached it to the connectors under the RV. Wait a minute, his sister said. You mean to say you're going to drop the contents of our toilet on Mrs. Higgins? Cook just grinned and nodded his head. Oh, that's disgusting, she said. I know, he replied. That's why I'm doing it. She's in for a big surprise. Coke gave the connector one last turn until the hose clicked into place. Then he took the other end of the hose and pulled it toward the guardrail. It reached just long enough to hang over the edge and dangle above the convertible. Down below, Mrs. Higgins took one last puff of her cigarette and flicked it away. Then she took some hand sanitizer out of the glove compartment and wiped off the steering wheel. Finally, she pulled the gloves back on. She's getting ready to leave, Pep said. She's putting her seatbelt on. Perfect, Cook said. That will make it harder for her to get out of the car. Quick, go pull the lever next to the hose. And at the same moment that Mrs. Higgins reached for her key to start her car, Pep pulled the lever next to the hose, and that's when 5 days worth of human waste slid down out of the holding tank, through the hose, and dropped directly into the driver's seat of the red convertible parked directly below. So gross. If you sat down and made a list of the most disgusting things that could possibly happen to a human being, having almost a week's worth of human waste, both liquid and solid, fall on your head would probably be right up there at the top. Mrs. Higgins let out a momentary shriek when the first few ounces hit her head, but then wisely decided to close her mouth. She tried to unhook her seatbelt, but by that time everything was wet and slippery. The hose was thick, maybe 5 inches in diameter. It didn't take long for the front seat of the convertible to be covered. Mrs. Higgins thrashed around helplessly like a fish on the floor of a rowboat. Let's blow this pop stand, Coke said gleefully. The twins scrambled to detach the hose from the connector and put it back in place. They took one last look over the railing to see Mrs. Higgins still sitting there, helpless and weeping, in a pool of human waste up to her neck. The twins jumped back into the RV. Coke started it, jammed it into reverse, and peeled out of there. And as they drove back into town, Coke and Pep were screaming and hooting and high-fiving each other as if they had just won the Super Bowl. It'll take her a long time to clean that off, Coke hollered. She won't be driving that car into anything for a while, Pep yelled. You know what they say, Coke told his sister. When all you got are lemons, make lemonade. And those weren't lemons, his sister shrieked. They drove back to the center of Darwin, laughing all the way. Luckily, the parking space where the RV had been was still open. Not so luckily, there were 2 people standing in it. Their parents. You two are so grounded, Mrs. McDonald hollered. And I'm going to stop right there because I think it's a great place to end for the week. So we just did 1 chapter today, but that's, I think, my favorite chapter of the entire book. So gross, but what a clever way to foil the plot of a terrorist who was trying to blow stuff up. So I don't know. I mean, my activity suggestion for you guys today is to think of what other way could they have stopped her? Come up with a solution. I don't know if you'll come up with anything quite as gross as what they actually did. I thought that was pretty quick thinking on Coke's part. So, and he got the dump done that his dad was wanting him to do. What do you think? Worth being grounded? I think it probably is. So it is Friday afternoon, and that's where we're going to stop for the week. I really thought we'd finish this book this week, but we didn't, and that's okay. We've got a couple more days. We still have a cipher to figure out, and we still don't know what the house on the rock is or what's going on there. So we've got a lot more adventure to come. But for right now, please go outside and enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, and we will see you guys on Monday. Rogue is still in his sunspot. He's not going to say hello today, but bye, guys.